a look inside the Pitt recruiting department, some great recruiting stories at Pitt from over the last 6 years. We've got a special guest that I think you're going to enjoy. Get your week started here on the Morning Pitt, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, welcome to Monday. Welcome to the Morning Pitt. Welcome to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You know the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. Everything is right there at Panther-Lair.com, and our video stuff here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, where you can find all these Morning Pitt videos. Our weekly live show that we do every Wednesday night, the post-game shows we'll start doing during the season, post-practice interviews, Pat Narduzzi press conferences, practice highlights, all kinds of video content, all right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and you want to make sure you don't miss it. So make sure you like this video and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, so you are on top of all of the video content we put out. It really ramped up last week with training camp getting underway, and it's going to keep going like that for the next 8 months or something like that. We're going to have a lot of video content here. So you want to make sure you are locked in by subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I got the subscribe button right down there for you. And of course, we've been talking about it. We're going to keep talking about it. If you want the best looking Pitt gear you are going to find, it's at homefieldapparel.com. I've talked about Homefield before. I've talked about Homefield a lot over the years, and you guys know the deal by now. Homefieldapparel.com. It's a vintage look. It's a classic look. They really dig into classic Pitt logos and classic Pitt markings that are instantly recognizable as being Pitt, but they're fresh. You know, they didn't change the logos. They just give you a fresh look. And it's on a high-quality t-shirt. It's a great product. It's a great shirt. Some of the most comfortable t-shirts I own. And here's the best part. If you go to homefieldapparel.com, on your first order, you're going to save 15% when you use the promo code LAIR23, LAIR23, LAIR23. No spaces or anything. Use that promo code. You're going to get 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. They're licensed to sell gear representing 150 schools. I mean, you want Pitt gear, so you get that. But if you want something fun, like Idaho or Hawaii or something like that, they've got, I don't know, actually I shouldn't say Idaho. I don't know if they have Idaho. They probably have Idaho. They've got almost everybody. And they have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, joggers, all different kinds of things. And you can get it for 15% off on your first order with the promo code LAIR23. So go check it out at homefieldapparel.com. Promo code LAIR23 to get 15% off your first order. Okay, I want to get through all the preliminaries because we got a guest today, and I'm excited about this. And you might have seen the news last week that Pitt's recruiting department lost a key member, Karlo Zovko, former Central Catholic guy, former Duquesne guy, worked at Toledo, worked at Duquesne, I think, and has been in Pitt's recruiting department as the assistant director player personnel, I think was his title, basically since 2017. And I know that because you'll hear me on the video. I asked him, how long have you been at Pitt? It was since 2017. But Karlo has been instrumental in helping build the recruiting classes. He's been instrumental in all of Pitt's recruiting efforts over the last 6 years. And he's part of a team. There's a group there with Graham Wilbert and Adam Kilturi and a number of interns and different other employees and assistants and staffers who have come through that department. But Karlo is really one of the key guys at the top, along with a few of those other guys I named, in all of Pitt's recruiting efforts. Recruiting is a big, big endeavor. It's not just about, hey, we saw this guy who's fast, let's recruit him. It's a big endeavor, and maintaining the recruiting boards for this year's class and next year's class and the year after that, and there's a lot to stay on top of. And I think sometimes the recruiting departments are some of the more undervalued and underappreciated in college sports, but they're crucial. They're vital. And you'll hear Pat Narduzzi say it all the time during his signing day press conferences and things about how important the recruiting department is. And Karlo's been a big part of that. So when he announced last week that he was moving on from Pitt, moving out of football altogether, actually, I said, you know what? He would be a great conversation to have on the Morning Pitt. So even though we're in the middle of training camp and there's lots to talk about with the team as they move toward the start of the season in less than a month, we're going to take a chance to talk some recruiting. And I was excited to talk to Karlo because he's an interesting guy. He's a good guy. Known him for years. And I figured we could have a fun conversation. But it was fun to go down recruiting memory lane. If you've really followed recruiting over the past 10 years, you're going to know some of the names that he talks about and some of the people he talks about, and you're going to understand the stories and the references and all that kind of thing. And mostly I think it's just interesting to hear from someone who is in the office, who is in the machine that is Pitt recruiting, and was a big part of it, and can, played a major role over the last 6 years. So it's a long interview, but I think it's an interesting one. I think it's one you're going to enjoy. So I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to move on and bring in Karlo, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll come back and wrap it up after the interview. But Karlo Zovko. And Karlo, I'm glad to have you. We've chatted a lot over the years. I was trying to think about this. What year did you start at Pitt? What was your first year?
First year was 2017, May of
2017. Okay, so like the 2018 recruiting class would have been the first class you worked on? Okay.
My first day, Jake Cradle committed.
Oh, look at you. Yeah. How about that? You delivered the whippeal already.
Zero to do with it. Zero to do with it.
All right. Well, so I mean that's a long time. That's 5 years, 6 years, right, that you spent at Pitt. And obviously, I mean, we could probably talk about the years before that too, but I'm curious, over those years at Pitt, we'll start with an easy question. What's the best recruiting class you helped Pitt sign in the last 6 years? Something easy, right?
Very easy. 2019 was really good. We always thought 2020, or at least me personally, I always thought 2020 was the class that was like, okay, we've turned this up a couple notches here. Like, and it was, I mean, there's already a couple draft picks in the class. Probably going to be more draft picks in the class. You wish you had more spots. You're only allowed 85 scholarships. You can only take so many kids. You wish you had more spots. But I always thought the 2020 recruiting class, that was Jordan Addison and Izzy and Dayon, I thought that was probably the best class we signed. But rolling into that, 2021 was a monster class. 22 was such a small class, but the quality of kids we had in 22, I mean, you wish you had 20, 25 guys in that class. We were rolling in 22. We didn't have any scholarships, though.
Yeah.
Everybody came back for their super senior year. So for my money, I thought the 2020 class was our best class during my tenure.
Right. I mean, you mentioned the 21 class. How tough was it to recruit that group? Because that was the class that could never visit. Like those, Khalil Anderson had to drive himself up and drive down South Water Street. You know what I mean? How tough was it recruiting? I mean, there were a lot of changes in recruiting over the last 5 years, but how tough was that year in particular when you couldn't bring guys on campus and tour them around?
Even if you look, everything is, tunnel vision, right? You're only looking at Pitt class. But if you take the broad perspective, everybody in the nation in that 21 class had either monster hits or monster misses, because you couldn't get a chance to know the kids. You didn't see them before they committed. You just have to take the huddle word that is he's 6'6", 280 pounds, or whatever the heck these kids list themselves at. We usually take 2.5 inches off and 20 pounds off any huddle non-verified listing. But yeah, that 21 class probably one of my favorite classes, though. We had all the locals kind of commit. And what's funny is as I was departing, I was going through old graphics, and the 21 Defend the City graphic was on. And on this current team right now, we have every single person on that graphic except for Dinkins, who's up at Penn State right now, tight end at Penn State.
Right.
But everybody else is on the squad right now. So that was I thought that was pretty cool. It's like, hey, we defended the city pretty damn well there.
Well, I mean, it's a funny contrast. I mean, when you got here in 2017, I mean, that 2017 class was pretty infamous. Now that would have been that class would have been signed before you got here, but that was pretty infamous for a class where Pitt struggled locally. They got Paris and I think Gabe Hoy, but I mean, it was, you run down the list of like the top 5 guys in the class, 6 guys, 7 guys, they all went away.
Yeah.
And it's not like you guys have gotten everybody in the last 5 or 6 years, but it does seem like it's improved. You're a local guy. You're a Whippeal guy. Where are those? I mean, shoot, you're the Whippeal insider. Where are those challenges been for Pitt locally? I mean, where did you see them before you got here and as you were actually in the machine?
Everybody wants to have the answers with the local kid, including myself. When I got hired at Pitt, I was like, okay, perfect. I'm putting my foot down, dominating the Whippeal. Here we go. But at the end of the day, a lot of the kids just want to go elsewhere. And there's nothing you can kind of say or do. It's not for lack of trying or lack of offering or didn't show them enough love. I mean, the locals, I think every single local we have offered, we've been all in on, but at the end of the day, some kids just want a different college experience, and it's more prevalent now. And I think something that people don't realize is recruiting has gone more so national thanks to social media and Twitter. Every team, I shouldn't say every team, but mostly every team in the nation struggles locally now. We used to do studies of where kids in certain spots were going and where they weren't. And it's not just Pitt that's missing on look. It's everybody's missing on look. Everybody thinks the grass is greener somewhere else. And that's kind of something to put into perspective. Everybody has tunnel vision just on the Whitfield kids and the Pittsburgh kids, but across the nation, people are struggling to keep their kids home. And it's kind of due to social media. Back in the day, Pitt used to fight against 5-6 teams recruiting Western PA. Now it's 30 teams, 40 teams recruiting Western PA. So it's harder than it looks. I'll just say that it's harder than it looks.
Well, it was one thing when the mail from the schools went to the high school head coach, and to get film. I mean, you needed videotapes mailed or DVDs mailed. It's not just sending a Twitter DM with a huddle link, right? I mean, it's not. Now Texas A&M can come recruit a kid from Aliquippa, which LSU can come get a kid from Gateway. That never. Right. Florida never went to Peters Township, 25 years ago. 30. Right. I mean, there's probably someone out there saying, "Oh, well, there was so and so from 1983 who went to."
But for the most part, all these teams weren't coming into Western PA and just recruiting by position. Used to recruit areas. Now it's more so getting to be by position.
Mm-hmm. We talked about kind of like a lot of changes over the years, and I'm really curious in the last, I guess, since the summer of 2018. So pretty much right around the time you arrived, these June official visits. I mean, how much was that? No, that would have been your first summer at Pitt, right? So
no. So I was in the summer of 17.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in the summer of 17. The thing about Pitt, I always say the summer official visits were a big reason for that ACC championship in 21. The NCAA doesn't allow summer official visits. I don't know exactly, the whole roster's changed. The thing about Pitt is when you get the kids on the official visit and you get to show them the full experience of Pitt and Pittsburgh, it's tough to beat. It really is tough to beat. And then you allow it in the summer before kids make their decisions. Back in the day, you used to have to do it during the season, which isn't great because now, the coaches are focused on the game, right? So you would wait until December or January to have your official visits. Well, in December and January, most of the kids are already committed somewhere. And not to mention, it's 10 degrees in Pittsburgh. You get them in the summer when, nobody is really committed yet. You fly them into Pittsburgh and we have a grand old time. We have a big old party. And that's why our hit rate on these summer OVs are unbelievable. And our recruiting, in my opinion, skyrocketed from when the NCAA allowed summer OVs, because you get to experience the full thing of Pittsburgh in 48 hours.
I did some math, like the previous class is 18 or 19, whatever that first one was. I think it was 2019 was the first class. Visits up through last year. Obviously there's nobody in 21, but it was something like, of all the June official visits, you got X number of 48 commitments and like 12 of them ended up decommitting. So you lost like a quarter of them. Is that kind of what you did you just come to expect at a certain point? Like, okay, if we get 16 guys in June, we're probably only going to hold on to maybe 12 of them.
My personal opinion and the staff's opinion may vary. If you get a commitment, you're all in on the kid.
Mm-hmm.
If you take more commits, well, now that guy's starting to wonder, well, they told me they're only taking X amount of players. So there's a fine line you have to kind of balance there, but no, we didn't really factor in decommitments for a while. If they were committed to us, we were all in, and then we will adjust kind of as the recruiting process adjust. But no, I thought we did a fantastic job of kind of knowing a little bit too, like, hey, if he's taking other visits, we need to think about visiting others as well. So we were never really in the dark either. We always had a game plan, number one.
Well, there were always there was some obvious, like Brandon Mack that first year. I mean, he came out of that official visit talking about how he was going to take more official visits, right? So
He looked like a Mack truck. He looked like $1 million on that visit. Yeah, oh yeah, I remember him.
yeah, but by the time, but I mean, you had to know when he left, like, okay, I hope we can hold, like, that one's going to be a battle till the end, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there are those
yeah.
guys coming out of the visit. Um, this year, obviously, and it's still fresh in everyone's mind. I mean, I'm sure, you see what the fan reactions are and things like that. You
Oh
had
yeah.
some interesting situations in June. Some, guys who seem to commit and then don't announce for months, which actually happened last year too, right? Lamar Seymour
Mm-hmm.
announced for like 8 weeks. Jordan Bass waited until the start of the season. So
Yeah.
that is not necessarily new, but then this year you have seemingly guys commit and then end up committing to another school. I mean, you're watching that from the inside. I mean, what did you see in this? Was this month unique? I guess would be one way to ask it.
Good question. We had unbelievable talent this year on the visits. I don't think people kind of grasp what we did this summer, from the outside looking in. And when the kids don't announce, you feel a little bit uneasy, but at the same time, it's their commitment, so you can't press them super hard. No, either you're doing this or you're out. Like, I mean, we're not going to do that. But yeah, there was some interesting ones, no doubt. And I have no idea why some would commit and go elsewhere. I have a inkling of a thought as to why, but we just once again always had a game plan for everything. So yeah, we were never in the dark. Once again, I can't stress that enough. Yeah, people think they're in they don't know this. We knew. We knew.
I generally assumed you guys were very rarely caught off guard.
Yeah, very.
Was there anything this summer that caught you off guard?
No, I think we got a couple kids that caught me personally off guard.
Caught you off guard, like in a positive way.
In a positive way, yes. Once again, you just get a kid in the city of Pittsburgh for 24 hours, showing them the wonderful University of Pittsburgh. People fall in love. It's yeah. I would say, me personally, I was caught off guard in a good way at all the kids we have in this class.
Mm-hmm. Do you think when if you have guys coming in that first weekend of June, right? There have been times in the past where you get them to commit and they cancel all their future official visits and that kind of thing.
Love those guys. Oh, yeah.
that takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. But when you got to the end of the month, as you guys kind of look back on it, I don't know, did you have different thoughts about how to approach it? If we should try and get the best guys later in the month to not, get a commitment from them and then they take more visits, try to be that last visit. I mean, how do you, because it seems like it's changing. It seems like the last 2 or 3 years, it's been more guys want, and now they can take unlimited official visits. So you're running even more of a risk. I guess I'm saying, where's the balancing act of
the balancing act is really, it's really of the scheduling as well. It's when can these kids visit and when can their parents get off work. So it's there is a game plan to it, but it's not as dead set as you can, because once again, the kids themselves have plans they have to do. Hey, we're in the state track championship. Hey, we're still in school. We're doing this, we're doing that. So you have to, it's a lot of scheduling. So it's not, I wish, looking back, we could game plan it, but you can do it to an extent, but not as much as you can, because at the end of the day, the kids have to get on the plane, with their schedule. So
how many times have you been, I don't know, did you go out to the airport? Were you on the trips to pick guys up at the airport?
Oh yeah, I've done lots of airport runs.
Okay. How many times have you been standing there like, is this guy really going to come walking through the door? Or
no. Everybody that went out, we knew if they got.
there were no completes. I guess guys would cancel the day before. They wouldn't, leave you wondering about that. I read something and I can't find it, so maybe I imagine it. Over the last week or so, there's some coaching staff where the head coach decided, and maybe you saw this, that the assistant coaches weren't going to offer anymore. It was all going to come from the recruiting staff. So the assistant coaches could focus more on game planning in the team, and the recruiting staff would do the offers and then send it up to the assistant coach. Like, here's the guys you need to talk to.
Yeah.
Did you see that Am I making that up or?
Yeah, I know what school that is. I think it's stupid. I don't think it'll work. You have to have a great balance between the recruiting staff and the coaching staff. And in my opinion, unbelievable balance at Pitt. Everybody respects each other's opinions. All the assistant coaches are coming down, watching film with us, seeing. We need to know what they like, number one. And at the same time, they need to know from kind of our perspective, hey, is this guy recruitable? Like, is he just chasing offers? Did he hit us up just so he can post on Twitter, or is there genuine interest? I think the problem with it, that's like kind of going the NFL route, right? That's what some teams are trying to go. Oh, have the general manager do this. I am very against that, and the main reason for that is because the recruiting staff doesn't get to go out and evaluate in the spring or in the winter, right? The assistant coaches are going out to see that. Hey, this kid says he's 6'2", 180 pounds, or is he 5'11", 165? Like, the position coaches have to go see that. They have to go see him work out. So as much as, playing a huddle and making decisions in the recruiting office, yeah, that sounds awesome because I'm in recruiting, but I have to be unbiased here. I don't think that's going to work. I hope it works out for them so that the recruiting industry does great, sure. But my personal opinion, we don't get to go see the kids compete athletically, playing basketball, watching track, playing lacrosse, whatever it may be. If we got to go on the road, yeah, I could understand that, but we don't get to go on the road as recruiting assistants. So
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion. Let the recruiters go recruit. Let the coach.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really see the assistant coaches being on board with that either. Like, I would think,
That
like
would be
your staff, like Charlie Partridge wants to pick his defensive lineman, right? Tim Salem
right.
wants to pick his tight ends, and so on and
Right.
so forth. And they might trust your evaluations. I mean, Charlie, I still remember Charlie telling the story of, he's out on the road recruiting, and you text him like, "Hey, there's this Baldonado kid who's like, I mean, you found, you know what I mean? You found it, but he's
Yeah.
still to, like, you weren't offering and putting him on the recruiting board. You were just saying, hey, you better check this out. Is it a lot of like back and forth? Like sometimes you find a guy and say, hey, take a look at him, and sometimes Archie Collins finds a guy and says, hey, what can what info can you come up with on this? Is
Yeah,
it
I mean, that's the point of spring recruiting, right? They go out, they go into these high schools. Hey, now this kid, I saw him lifting weights in the weight room. He looks like $1,000,000. Go check out his tape. That's when we can be back at the home office, like, oh shoot, Archie, he might be a dude. Like, yeah, if he's saying if he's doing what you're saying, we got to check into that. And then you get him on, campus, see him, feel him around a little, like feel him out, I should say, a little bit, just where he's at mentally and all that. But yeah, that happens all the time. Once again, I think the assistant coaches are so vital, and Coach Dews has such a great staff put together. Yeah, we don't miss very often, and there's a reason for that. Everything is very detailed with Coach Narduzzi, and I think we do a hell of a job. I'm not saying it's the perfect world. I don't know how a lot of other schools do it, but yeah, leaving it all into the recruiting office's hands when they can't go out on the road, I don't know. Good luck.
Yeah. Pat Narduzzi rather famously is a let's say a very demanding head coach. I mean, there's a lot of stories about him and his assistant coaches, and he expects a lot. He's very demanding, and a lot of coaches are. I was always kind of curious how much does that extend to the recruiting office? Is there you guys get your fair share of whatever you want to call it?
Oh, we know what we signed up for. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, at the end of the day, we won the ACC in 2021, and you can poll anybody in the nation. Nobody thought we were doing that. In-house, we thought we were doing that, but anybody else, and I'm sure even Pittsburgh local media probably didn't give us a chance. We knew what we had. We knew how to go about things. And that's why we won it, but yeah, like, it's good when the head coach is so involved in everything, every detail matters. And yeah, I don't know. I thought whatever he does, I'm all in. I'm all in on it. I would never second guess it. Never. Hey, if he thinks this is what it takes to win a championship, he probably knows, So yeah, I was always, and the rest of the staff is the same way. Rest of the staff same way.
What was your oh, okay, that's how it is around here moment back in 2017, 2018? When was the first time you got an earful from the head coach? And what'd you do to earn that earful?
Oh, I had how do I go about this? I had said some information to somebody. I was at Duquesne and Toledo. We were allowed to talk to whoever we want about whatever. And yeah, coach wasn't happy with me. I was in the doghouse for a little bit. Opening my mouth too much.
And somehow it got back to the head coach, and he.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's he's not a big fan of that. He likes
he likes secrecy. And once again, that's part of the thing where I really didn't know him at that point. Whatever he wants, I'm doing. He knows what it takes to win a championship. I don't. So follow the head coach. So that's when I learned, hey, Karlo, just put your head down and work. And good things will happen.
You said you guys were confident about the 2021 team. I mean, I'll admit, I was like, yeah, you lost 2 All-Americans at defensive end, and you got this turnover, that turnover. You guys were 6-5 the year before, and all that. So I'll put myself in the category of doubters, not a hater, but a doubter at the very least. When did you really feel like, all right, there's something special here? Was it during the season, during camp, some other?
Personally, for me, we all had the belief, but I can remember in my head the exact moment. And we had beaten Tennessee, we had lost to Western Michigan, we went down to Georgia Tech, and we were just kind of doing whatever we wanted against Georgia Tech. And I remember Kenny kind of scrambling around and just throwing it across to Lucas Kroll in the back of the end zone, just like on a rope. And I remember looking around like, okay, we're gonna do this. like this is the year. I personally, for me, that was the play that I was like, all right, we had shown some things by beating Tennessee and whatnot, and then Western had come in and beat us, so we're like, what's going on? But yeah, the Georgia Tech game, when Kenny made that throw, I remember thinking, okay, yeah, we can run.
Yeah, that was it was funny how he sort of took on that year. I mean, he was always kind of cool and laid back, but that year he really had that calmness in the pocket that like the great ones have. You know what I mean? Yeah. He could settle in there. All right. How much did your job change in the last 3 years of the transfer portal? How much did your job? How different was it?
Me personally, not so much. The transfer portal is what it is. We just keep rolling with it. Whatever the NCAA does, there's nothing we can do about it. So, adapt or die. But, personally for me, my job, when somebody got on campus, I'm making sure when they leave Pittsburgh on their flight or driving home, whatever it may be, that, wow, I had a great time at Pitt. That was, I took that to heart. Every unofficial, and especially during official visits, that's what I did. So I didn't care if the kid was, 15 years old or 25 year old grad transfer, 7th year COVID, whatever it is. When they left Pittsburgh, I made sure they were having a good time. So it didn't matter to me, the transfer portal and whatnot. I was good. I was trying to make them feel good.
Right. When a lot of these Whippeal guys end up back in the portal, MJ Devonshire or Phil Dracovic, obviously this year, Derek Davis, Donovan McMillan. I mean, there's a decent list. Johnny Patrician. How many of those guys did you have pre-existing relationships with, and how much did that help? I mean, maybe they knew from the time they went in the portal that they were probably
personally.
Yeah, you personally.
Oh, pretty much all of them, except for Phil, because I wasn't here when Pitt recruited Phil. But yeah, I remember talking to MJ's dad when he hopped in, and we hadn't even offered him yet. I was just calling to see what was going on, and that's more so what I was there for. Derek Davis's dad kind of the same way. I was talking to them before Pitt had even offered them out of the portal. Not saying I was talking to them before they went to the portal. We weren't, we weren't pushing them in.
Yeah.
But when they went in, I would call them, hit them up, hey, what's going on, whatever it may be. So, but yeah, I always had those existing relationships and whatnot.
Yeah. All right. So looking back over 5 years, 6 years, however long we're calling it, biggest surprise commitment you got.
The biggest surprise.
You couldn't believe it happened. It could be this
summer.
Sure.
This one jumps right out the top of my head. Ryan Baer, for sure. For me personally, I can remember kind of going around the office. So Ryan had taken some official visits elsewhere. He wasn't coming on an official to Pitt, but we were treating it as an official visit because he was staying two days, which is not normal.
Right.
But I can remember saying, like, man, he's saving his last official visit for the school he's going to commit to. And little did I know that he was saving his final official visit for the school he was going to commit to. But when he was on campus, I mean, we had a ball with his family and him. We treated it as an official visit, and he was kind of the only player there. Usually those summer OVs, you have 8 to 15 guys on the visit, but Ryan came by himself. It might have been midweek. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think it was midweek, but we treated it like an OV, and he ended up committing without taking an official visit. I was like, holy smokes.
All right. That's a pretty good one.
And my favorite story about that.
Okay.
So when Ryan committed, nobody knew he was going to commit. I don't know if it was Ryan or his dad, Russ, had told Coach Narduzzi, but it was absolutely on lock. Nobody knew. I'm pretty sure Coach kind of said, hey, we're not telling anybody. Coach Junko walks into the recruiting office. He's like, oh, boys, my phone ain't working. I don't know what the hell's going on. And we're like, what's up, Coach Junko? He's like, this damn number keeps calling. It's from Willoughby, Ohio. Who's from Willoughby, Ohio? And I remember saying, is it Ryan Baer calling you? And, because Ryan was from around there, which we didn't know that it was actually Russ, his dad, calling Junk. Because this was maybe a couple days or a couple weeks after Ryan had left. And then all of a sudden we get a voicemail pop up notification. She's like, oh, play that voicemail for me. So we play the voicemail, and it's Russ Baer telling Junk, hey, I hope you got 4 more years in you because the kid's coming. And we're all looking around like, are you kidding me? That was probably my favorite story because, Junk was the ace recruiter. Everybody loved Junk, but finding out Ryan was committing that way was really cool. And I remember I had put out some emojis, to kind of tease everybody. And I remember getting called into Coach Narduzzi's office. I'm like, hey, what's up, Coach Deuce? He's like, hey, what were those emojis you were putting out on Twitter? Because once again, only in his mind, only he knew Ryan was committing, right? So he's like trying to find out, how the hell did Karlo find out? But he didn't know that we had listened to the voicemail Russ set up for John. We didn't know the commitment was like super, super locked down, So
I mean, there's a lot of funny sides of that story, but it's also funny that you got called into the principal's office to get questioned over your use of emojis.
For my emojis. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's really sort of indicative of what the scene is like down there.
Well, he was just like, hey, what were those about? And I don't even remember what I had to BS. I was like, oh yeah, I don't know, something about last night I was watching TV or something like that.
Oh geez. Oh man, you're giving it up now. You lied to the head coach. All right. So that was the biggest surprise that you got. What was the biggest surprise that got away? Somebody you were definitely sure about, you knew you were getting, but just didn't get him.
This is a good one. I felt really good about, once again, personally. So everything I say, this is just my opinion, not that opinion, just my personal opinion. I felt really good about Davison Igbinison from Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Stunned when he didn't when he didn't pick Pitt. I was certain. I thought Corey Sanders did an unbelievable job. I thought we knocked the visit out the ballpark. He went to Ole Miss. He actually just transferred to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's a hell of a DB. But I was that was one personally for me that I kind of told everybody, like, hey, I'm feeling really good. And another one was was Tate Rodemaker, who went to Florida State. I was very close with the parents. I drove them to the airport as they were departing, and I remember coming back like, oh, this kid is ours. Like, he's not getting away. And I think he went to Florida State. I don't know if he's still there or not. I think so.
I think, yeah, because I think he played occasionally. Like he played against you guys, right? In 2020. That's right. Got some snaps. No, it's interesting. I mean, with Igbinison, I mean, at some point, Ole Miss is just it's Ole Miss.
Gonna Ole Miss, yeah.
Nice. All right. Was there anything else I wanted to ask you? Oh, I want to ask you about this. This is the last one because we talk about like fan comments, and I know you see what's on message boards and Twitter. Your guy Tim Salem takes a lot of heat. You know that. I mean, and you know you can look at tight end recruiting. You can say what you will, but I know that inside the building, there's a pretty strong feeling about him as a recruiter, right? That maybe he gets misrepresented. The fans are off base about it.
I don't understand why. The value he brings in recruiting is unbelievable. Just if he comes back from spring recruiting and says, this guy's a player, that guy is 110% a player. My favorite story about Tim Salem was he goes to New York. Matt Gonsalves lived, I don't know exactly where Matt lived, but I remember Tim saying it's very hard to get to. Like, you got to drive to go see Matt Gonsalves, and there's nobody else in the area. So if you're going to see him, you're going to see Matt and Matt only. That's how kind of Tim put it to me. He said, this kid's coming to camp. I saw him work out, he's 6'6.5". He's this, he's that, he moves, he runs, he hits, that's how Tim talks. And I'm all right, well, let's see what he got. Matt came to camp and absolutely mauled everybody. Like, no brainer, got an offer. And every team that was there offered Matt on the spot. Like all the Macks, all the FCS coming in. I think he only had like Wagner as an offer, Wagner and Stony Brook.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he committed, and I remember seeing comments like, Pitt just got to commit from somebody that doesn't even have a profile. He has offers from Wagner, And I remember thinking, Matt's like the best player in our class. And at the end of the day, I think he got bumped on a lot of sites to 4 stars. And then he ended up being a freshman All-American. I was like, yeah, well, who was right? But that's kind of how Tim Salem recruits. He goes, when he's spring recruiting, he sees so many players, not only just the amount of players, just the quality of the players as well. If I was an FCS school, a recruiting coordinator in FCS school, I would buy a Tim Salem recruiting service. Just, hey, which guys did you not offer that you thought could be a guy that are maybe a little bit undersized for you or a step too slow for you? And he'll probably give you a list, 15 names long. If you just recruit from that list, you're going to find some dudes. Yeah, Tim, very, very underrated recruiter.
I mean, you can start listing off names like Kenny Pickett, Izzy Benacanda, Servassier Dennis. I mean, he's got some pretty good names.
Oh, I remember. I think it was 2019 or 2018. I can't remember which year it was, but of the offense, of all the starters week 1, I think he had like 8 or 9 starters on offense of the 11. It was like, who is saying this guy can't recruit? He's dominating,
Well, I guess it's the tight ends. People look at the tight ends and they're like, but that's another we could probably talk for another half hour about tight ends.
Let me give you something on the tight ends, okay? Because tight end is the hardest position to recruit. Number one, you got to be 6'4", 6'3" at the shortest. And that's just the reality of it. The reality is the ACC has some damn good defensive ends and outside linebackers. You have to block these guys. If you're undersized, you're just going to get tossed around. Everybody says hard over height, whatever. In a lot of positions, that's true. Tight end, you got to find a dude, right? So when you're talking about 6'4" kids in high school that can run, can catch, can change directions, and can block, well, there's only so many of those kids in the nation. And you have Ohio State taking 3 of them, A&M taking 2 of them, Georgia's taking 3 of them. There's only so much that can happen. So tight end recruiting is really hard. That's probably easily the hardest thing to recruit at a Power 5 school. And unless you're recruiting at an elite level, but if you look at, once again, everybody's just tunnel vision on Pitt. You look around across the nation, a lot of teams struggle to recruit tight ends because there's only a finite amount of these kids, because mainly a lot of them that are 6'4", twitched up and can hit, they're probably playing defensive end.
The end, right? Exactly. Yep. That's it.
Or offensive tackle.
Right. They're either bulking up to be an offensive tackle, or they're playing D end, and that's what it comes down to. All right, man. We've got like 60 seconds left on this call. Somehow time flies, but thanks so much for doing it. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again at some point, because I didn't ask you for a season prediction. I'm not going to do that because
no.
But we'll talk about it.
12-0.
12-0. There you go. 12-0. All right, Karlo, thanks so much.
One last comment. 30 seconds. One last comment.
Right.
Julian Duggar going to be a superstar at Pitt. Heard it here first.
There it is. I should ask you that. Should have been my first question.
Heard it here.
All right. We will come back to you when he starts his college career. All right.
Yes. Perfect.
Karlo, best of luck and everything, man. And we will catch up with you again soon. Okay.
Appreciate it. Sounds good, Chris. Thanks for having me. All
right. Thanks to Karlo for joining us. That was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun chatting with him. I know all those names. You probably know a lot of those names he talked about. Davison, Igbinison. How about the little shout out for Julian Duggar at the end there? Look, Karlo is as big a believer in Julian Duggar as anybody. Believe me, he's convinced about Duggar. And I know not every Pitt fan is, but Karlo, somebody whose career was riding on it, whose job, and obviously stepped out of that job, but he was willing to stake his job on believing in Julian Duggar having the potential to be a big-time player. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But there was interesting stuff throughout that. I just sit here and pinpoint one thing or another would be a little bit, it would be foolish, because he said a lot of good stuff. And I think there's a really good conversation in there. But the Julian Duggar thing being like the last thing, I figured I had to reference that. Thanks to Karlo, though. I can't thank him enough for taking all that time to chat with us here for the Monday edition of the Morning Pitt. You just saw the promo code flash on the screen, though. Make sure you go over to homefieldapparel.com. Promo code Lair23 to get 15% off your first order of some of the best Pitt gear and really college sports gear that you're going to find anywhere. Their Pitt logos are outstanding. Like I say, it's a vintage classic look. And I'm excited to be working with them again. And I'm going to have to get some more home field stuff for me to wear. This is not a home field shirt right now, but I'll have one on. We'll talk about home field again later in the week. I'll have one on again for that. But thanks to Home Field for supporting us. Make sure you go check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Promo code Lair23 to get 15% off your first order. Then head over to the website, Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com for the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, and the message boards to talk to other Pitt fans about conference realignment and recruiting and football and seasons and opponents and everything like that. Panther-Lair.com, and our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe to never miss any of our Pitt video content. Thanks again to Karlo Zovko for joining us. It's been a lot. It was a lot of fun to chat with him. We'll be back with more Pitt talk. Pitt has training camp practice this morning, so we'll be back talking about that and everything going on in the world of Pitt sports on tomorrow's edition of the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.